The night always smelled faintly of ozone and fried circuitry in New Avalon. That was the thing about a city floating 3 kilometers above sea level on magnetized pylons. Everything hummed, sparked, and sputtered at the edges. My cab rattled through it all like an old tin can, with pretensions of grandeur, neon reflections crawling across the cracked windshield as if they were trying to escape. The nav system blinked at me with its usual snarky error message. Destination not found. Please reconsider your life choices. And I muttered back at it, promising I'd sell it for scrap the first chance I got. It was a quiet shift, or as quiet as it gets in a city that never shuts up. I just dropped off a pair of android musicians who smelled strongly of burnt copper. Don't ask me how androids end up smelling like anything. And was thinking of calling it a night when the door to my cab slammed open hard enough to make the whole vehicle groan. She tumbled in like she'd been pushed by invisible hands, breath ragged, eyes wide, shoulders tense enough to snap. And she wasn't just scared, she was hunted. "Drive," she hissed. No hello, no where to, just that one word. Now look, I'm not proud, but I've had people pull stunts like this before. Usually it's some half-drunk executive who thinks he's in a spy thriller. But then the light caught her face, and I forgot the smart remark I was about to make. Her ears were the first thing I noticed. Long, delicate, curving upward like they were tuned to some frequency humans couldn't hear. For a second, I thought maybe she was wearing some biotech headgear, the kind kids use at costume clubs. But the way they twitched, the way they moved with her breathing. No, those weren't props. I gripped the wheel tighter. "Lady, unless this is the most committed cosplay I've ever seen, I'm guessing you don't exactly have a green card for New Avalon." "Just drive," she repeated, voice low and sharp. And against every survival instinct I owned, I did. The cab's engine growled awake like a lazy beast, and we shot off into the mid-level traffic streams. Neon billboards slid past, advertising everything from memory implants to caffeinated oxygen. Behind us, the streetlights flickered strangely, as though the grid was whispering to itself. She slumped back, watching the windows, every muscle wired tight. I tried a joke to cut through the tension. "You know, usually my passengers say please." Nothing, not even a twitch of a smile. "Okay, okay," I said, weaving us through a knot of delivery drones that seemed just a little too interested in our cab. "Don't tell me anything, I don't need trouble. But maybe, just maybe, you could explain why my rear-view mirror now looks like the opening scene of a Chase Hollow." She glanced at me then, sharp green eyes reflecting the dash light. "They've found me." "Good, specific, who s? Tax collectors, angry ex-boyfriend, Galactic Pizza Delivery Service." Her lips tightened, but her silence screamed more than words. The drones behind us weren't subtle anymore. 3 of them dipped lower, their scanners flickering over the cab's plates. I cursed under my breath, cut across 2 lanes, and punched the thrusters harder than my cab liked. The old beast groaned but obeyed, leaping forward in a shuddering lurch that rattled the coffee cup stuck in the holder. "Lady," I said, "if you're planning on getting me arrested, I should at least know your name before I lose my license." "Lyra." The name was smooth, almost musical, even under the strain in her voice. "Well, Lyra, I'm Jax, and congratulations, you've just hijacked the least reliable cab in the city. Hold on to something." We dove off the main sky bridge and into one of the narrower underpasses. Down here, the city's guts showed. The wires, the pipes, the dripping condensation that never saw the sun. My cab's lights flickered as the drones followed, weaving between pillars with disturbing precision. I tried another joke, mostly for my own sanity. "You know, I charge extra for high-speed chases. Hazard pay, wear and tear, psychological trauma, adds up really." This time she almost smiled. The corner of her mouth twitched before she bit it back. Something about that tiny reaction made me keep going. "Don't worry, Lyra. If we survive this, I'll even throw in a discount coupon for your next ride. Just promise me it won't involve homicidal drones." Her voice softened just a little. "You don't understand, they won't stop, ever." And maybe it was the way her words carried a weight heavier than fear, or the way her ears trembled like antennae tuned to danger. But I believed her. The drones surged forward, and one fired a net of electric strands that crackled against the cab's hull. The whole vehicle shivered, dashboard screaming warnings at me. I swore, flipped two manual switches I hadn't touched in years, and the cab spat smoke and sparks as it squeezed out one last burst of acceleration. The net fell behind us, sizzling into the dark. We shot out of the underpass and into the open sky, the city glittering below like a circuit board. My heart hammered, my palms slick on the wheel. Lyra pressed herself against the seat, eyes fixed on the swarm behind us. They'll send more. Of course they will, I muttered, because clearly tonight wasn't already awful enough. Then louder, forcing cheer into my voice, don't worry. I've been driving this heap for years. Nothing's caught me yet, except parking tickets. She looked at me, really looked at me, as if trying to measure the worth of my words. For a moment, amid the chaos, her expression softened. And then the sky ahead bloomed red with warning grids, every traffic light turning against us, every automated lane screaming halt. I sighed. Well, looks like someone really doesn't want you getting away. Her hand gripped the seat, knuckles white. I told you, they never stop. The cab shuddered as the first blockade drones descended, sleek and merciless. And me? I just laughed because sometimes humor is all you've got when the universe decides to run you over. Guess it's official, Lyra. This ride, definitely 5 stars. The blockade spread across the skyline like a glowing spiderweb, red beams stretching between floating pylons. Traffic rerouted instantly, streams of hovercars bending away from the grid in smooth, obedient arcs. Everyone else knew better than to test it. My cab, on the other hand, had all the self-preservation instincts of a drunk pigeon. Alarms screamed from every panel, restricted airspace detected, violation imminent. Penalties include fines, impoundment, and/or vaporization. Vaporization, I muttered. That's new. They used to just threaten to tow me. Lyra leaned forward, green eyes bright against the glow. If you stop, they'll take me. Lady, I kind of figured that out from the heavily armed drones, politely asking us to pull over. I twisted a dial that hadn't worked since the last solar storm and prayed. The cab coughed, shuddered, and miracle of miracles, lurched sideways, scraping past the nearest beam with a shower of sparks. The drones shrieked, metallic voices echoing across the grid, unauthorized vehicle detected. Surrender immediately. Sorry, boys, I called, even though none of them could hear me. Customer S in a hurry, maybe next time. We plunged downward, slipping into a canyon of skyscrapers. Lights flashed across glass walls, advertising dream recording services, genetically modified pets, and limited-time offers on portable wormholes. Lyra's face reflected in every surface, pale and strained. Do you always talk to yourself? She asked, her voice tight. Only when I'm terrified, I said, grinning even as my knuckles whitened on the controls. Which, lucky for you, is most of the time. Her ears flicked in what I swear was amusement, though she quickly masked it. I banked hard left, skimming so close to a hollow ad that the cab's antenna sliced through the projection of a singing toothpaste tube. The drones followed, swarming like angry hornets. They weren't firing yet, which I guessed meant they wanted Lyra alive. That was good for her, bad for me. Nothing makes a guy feel more like expendable meat than being the unnecessary extra in someone else's chase. We dove into a maintenance tunnel, its lights flickering dimly, pipes dripping condensation that splattered across the windshield. My nav screen blinked in protest. Entering unauthorized zone. Risk level. Absurd. Ignore that, I told Lyra. The system exaggerates. Last week it said my coffee order was a critical error. The tunnel twisted, narrow enough that my cab scraped the walls with a metallic screech. Behind us, 2 drones clipped the edges and spun out in showers of sparks. I let out a breathless laugh. Ha, score 1 for bad city planning. Lyra leaned close, her hand braced on the dash. You can't keep this up. They'll adapt. Adapt. Lady, this cab barely adapts to potholes. She didn't smile this time. Instead, she pressed her palm against the glass. For a second, faint light shimmered beneath her skin, threads of blue tracing her veins like constellations. The windshield flickered, the static clearing, and suddenly I could see a path through the tunnel, glowing faint green lines curving ahead. What did you just do?" I asked. "Showed you where to go," she said simply. "You've got a built-in GPS." "Something like that." I shook my head, muttering. And here I was proud I'd finally updated my nav chip last year. Following the glowing trail, I gunned the cab forward. We burst out of the tunnel and into the undercity, where scaffolds and half-built towers leaned like drunken giants. The place was a maze, abandoned construction drones floating lifeless in the gloom. Perfect cover, if we didn't crash first. The pursuing drones fanned out, their searchlights stabbing through the dark. I killed the cab's headlights, coasting between rusted girders. The silence was thick, broken only by the hum of our engine and Lyra's steady breathing. "Why are they after you?" I whispered. She didn't answer right away. The glow in her veins faded, leaving only shadow. Finally, she said, "Because I have something they can't control." "Is it contagious?" I asked. "Because if I wake up tomorrow with glowing veins, my landlord's going to charge extra." This time she did smile, just faintly. "No, it's mine alone." Before I could press her, a searchlight caught the tail of the cab. Sirens wailed and the swarm surged toward us. "Great," I groaned. "Couldn't let us have one quiet bonding moment, could you?" I slammed the thrusters, the cab shrieking like an old kettle, and we shot upward through the skeleton of a tower. Girders rushed past, drones closing in. One fired a net that wrapped around a beam just ahead, glowing strands crackling with energy. I yanked the wheel. The cab tilted, scraping so close to the beam that I lost a side mirror. Sparks rained down, blinding for a heartbeat. Lyra clutched the seat. "How are you still alive?" "Bad luck," I said through gritted teeth. "It keeps me on my toes." We burst free of the scaffold maze and into open sky once more. Behind us, the drones regrouped, faster and angrier. Ahead, the city stretched endlessly, a labyrinth of towers and skyways. Lyra's voice was calm, almost resigned. "They'll keep coming, no matter where we go." I swallowed, my heart hammering. "Yeah, well, let's make it expensive for them." And with that, I dove the cab straight into the busiest traffic lane in the city, horns blaring and lights flaring around us, betting everything on chaos and dumb luck. Traffic in New Avalon was always chaos, but that night it was absolute murder. The sky lanes pulsed with cars, buses, and delivery haulers, each one automated, each one convinced that it had the right of way. My cab was the only thing in the stream still relying on human reflexes and bad decision-making, which meant I was weaving through like a lunatic while every other vehicle honked in digital outrage. "Relax," I muttered to the cab. "You've survived worse. Remember that time we lost both thrusters over East Dock?" The cab whined at me through its diagnostics panel, which I took as agreement. Lyra sat beside me, silent, her hands gripping the seat hard enough that the leather creaked. Her long ears twitched every time a horn blared or a drone swooped past. "You know," I said over the roar of engines, "this is exactly why I never signed up for rideshare services. Too many rules about passenger safety." She glanced at me, wide-eyed, as though trying to decide if I was joking. Which, of course, I was, but I was also very close to screaming. Behind us, the hunter drones swarmed into the traffic, ignoring every collision warning. A pair clipped a bus, sparks flaring, alarms shrieking as commuters screamed behind sealed glass. Nobody stopped, of course. In New Avalon, you didn't stop for anything. "Can't we lose them?" Lyra asked. "Lady, these guys are flying military-grade models. My cab barely got a working air filter. But hey, at least my stereo's louder than theirs." As if on cue, the cab's sound system glitched and started blasting static-filled opera. Lyra jumped, I winced. Oh, the scraping grew louder, a deep metallic shriek that rattled the beams above our heads. Lyra froze by the console, every line of her body tense, her long ears twitching toward the sound. I held my breath, wishing I could blame the noise on rats the size of hoverbikes, but I knew better. From the darkness at the far end of the platform, a shape emerged, sleek, angular, and way too advanced to be one of the broken service bots rusting around us. Its eyes glowed red, scanning, whirring. A hunter drone, larger than the ones we'd shaken before, armored and ugly. Behind it, smaller ones poured through the tunnel, their wings slicing the air with a mechanical hiss. I groaned. Of course. Because why would they just give up? That'd be too easy. Nope, let's send in the deluxe murder package. Lyra didn't even flinch. We have to leave now. I looked back at my cab. Smoke still coughed from the vents, the engine wheezing like a dying animal. Lady, unless you can convince this heap to stop being a heap, we're not going anywhere. She moved past me, palm pressing against the hood. Her veins lit again, the glow spreading down her arm. The cab twitched, dashboard lights flickering to life. With a rattling roar, the engine came alive, smoother and stronger than I'd ever heard it. My jaw dropped. You rebooted it. You just hot-wired my cab with your bloodstream. Do you have any idea how creepy that is? She ignored me. Get in. The drone surged forward. I didn't argue. I jumped behind the wheel, Lyra sliding into the passenger seat. The cab screamed as I gunned it, tires screeching against ancient stone before catching and blasting us down the opposite tunnel. The drones followed, their shrieks echoing like a swarm of angry wasps. The big one fired a pulse shot, a searing bolt that tore chunks out of the wall just meters from us. Sparks rained down, smoke filling the tunnel. Okay, I yelled over the noise. I vote we never take public transport again. Lyra's fingers danced across the cracked nav screen. Symbols flickered, then twisted into a three-dimensional map of the tunnels. Here, she pointed, a maintenance shaft upward leads to the surface. Perfect, I muttered, wrenching the wheel hard. The cab scraped against a wall, the mirror snapping clean off. Don't need that anyway. Mirrors are overrated. We shot into the maintenance shaft, narrow and steep. The cab rattled violently, sparks flying as the roof scraped overhead. My teeth clacked with every jolt. Behind us, the drones tried to follow, but the shaft was too tight. Smaller ones darted in, wings grinding against the walls, sparks flashing as they fought for space. I glanced at Lyra. Any chance you've got a glowing vein trick that makes walls wider? She shot me a look that suggested I was hopeless. Just drive. The cab burst upward, the shaft spitting us out into open air. And suddenly, the city was gone. We were above it, above everything, hovering just under the planet's shimmering rings. The sky spread endless and black, stars burning sharp. New Avalon glittered below like a circuit board, endless towers flickering with light. I let out a low whistle. Okay, worth the near death. 10 out of 10 view. Lyra's eyes were on the horizon. They'll follow. Yeah, I sighed, but at least we'll die with a nice backdrop. As if summoned, the big drone shot out of the shaft, wings unfolding into sleek blades. Smaller ones poured after it, forming a predatory flock against the stars. My cab was never meant for open-air flight, let alone space-adjacent maneuvers. The controls shook violently, panels sparking. Any suggestions? I shouted. Lyra closed her eyes. Give me control. What of the cab? No offense, but you don't look like you've got a driver's license. Trust me. Something in her tone cut through my panic. I yanked my hands back from the wheel. Lyra pressed both palms flat against the dash. Her veins blazed brighter than ever, casting the cab in blue light. The engine's roar deepened, thrusters flaring with sudden power. The cab jolted forward, faster than I'd ever imagined possible. My stomach nearly leapt into orbit. I screamed, not dignified at all. This isn't driving, this is suicide with style. Lyra didn't respond, focused entirely on the glow coursing through her. The cab became an extension of her body, swerving and twisting with inhuman grace. We dove under the arc of the drones, then shot upward, spinning between them so close I could see my reflection in their metal hides. The big drone fired again. Lyra jerked us aside, the shot grazing the hull. My seatbelt locked with a sharp tug, bruising my ribs. "Remind me," I gasped, "never to let aliens borrow my cab again." She smirked faintly, eyes still closed. "You'd rather walk." We spiraled through the drones, the city's ring lights reflecting across the windshield. I could feel the cab straining, metal groaning, but Lyra held it steady. Then the big drone made its move. It darted forward with impossible speed, claws unfolding to snatch the cab like a toy. Lyra's eyes snapped open, glowing as bright as her veins. She slammed her hands against the dash. The cab surged forward, a shockwave of blue light bursting from the thrusters. The big drone reeled back, its systems flickering. Smaller ones scattered, colliding with each other in the chaos. We shot past them, climbing higher into the sky until the drones were specks against the stars. Finally, Lyra slumped back, her glow dimming. The cab slowed, drifting. Smoke trailed from the hull, but we were alive. I sagged against the seat, chest heaving. "Okay, that was something. Next time, though, I drive, even if it kills us slower." Lyra tilted her head, studying me with tired eyes. "You're not afraid anymore." "Oh no, I'm terrified," I said. "But I figure if death's inevitable, I might as well complain about it the whole way down." For the first time she laughed. A small, real laugh, soft against the hum of the failing engine. And somehow, despite the army of machines still hunting us, despite the madness of it all, that sound made me think maybe, just maybe, we had a chance. The cab barely held together as we drifted toward the old orbital station, its hull patched with scorch marks and duct tape optimism. The place loomed above the planet like a broken crown, spinning slow and silent, half its lights dead, the other half flickering as though they hadn't made up their mind about staying on. I angled the cab into the docking ring, metal grinding loud enough to make me wince. "Well, that's the deposit gone. If anyone asks, we'll just say space pigeons did it." Lyra didn't answer. She was staring at the station, her face drawn, her ears tilted forward like they were listening to something only she could hear. We slipped inside. The dock was empty, save for drifting debris and the occasional service drone frozen mid-task. I climbed out, legs shaking, patting the cab's side. "Good job, buddy. If you don't explode before morning, I'll buy you new seat covers." Lyra stepped lightly onto the deck, her glow faint but steady now. "This is where they'll corner us." "Fantastic. Nothing I like more than a prearranged execution venue." I pulled my jacket tighter, scanning the shadows. "You sure we couldn't have picked somewhere with better amenities? Maybe a minibar?" She almost smiled. "There's something here I need to show you, the truth." We moved deeper into the station, past shattered windows where the stars leered in. The silence pressed heavy, broken only by our footsteps. Then in a wide chamber at the core we found it, a crystalline structure suspended in the air, pulsing faintly, alive. It was beautiful, terrifying too, a heart made of light. Lyra approached it. Her veins lit up in response, glowing in the same rhythm. "This is what I carry," she said softly. "A fragment of them. A civilization older than any council, any empire. They gave me this so their voices would not vanish." I stared. "You're telling me you've been running around with a galactic history museum in your bloodstream?" "Yes." She touched the crystal and images flared, stars being born, cities carved into asteroids, creatures I couldn't name. Then war, fire, silence. They destroyed themselves, but they wanted someone to remember. "And the council doesn't want anyone to know," I said. "Because if we remember, we might realize we're not as big and important as we like to think." She nodded. "They'll erase me if they can. And you didn't have to help me, but you did." I scratched the back of my neck, feeling uncomfortably exposed.